It's been over 4 months since the new generation of GPUs came out. We weren't exactly impressed by their performance and we didn't like their prices, but the thing that disappointed us the most was stock. The new generation of GPUs were out of stock everywhere, so now over 4 months later, and since Nvidia had time to stock up, have GPUs become cheaper? Okay, it seems that they have become cheaper, but they are not at MSRP quite yet, and some are farther than others. So we are going to discuss which are the better deals at their current prices and how are the prices going to change, because as we know, people might not like the RTX 5070, but a 5070 at MSRP is still a really good deal compared to a better GPU that some random scalper is going to sell you because it's out of stock. Okay, so the gist of it is that the GPUs that are on the cheaper side can probably be found close to MSRP, and if you wanted a more expensive GPU, the right thing to do is wait until it goes back to MSRP. That would be the logical conclusion, and that would be wrong. Basically, people are scared that because of the tariffs that USA has put in China, the GPUs are going to be more expensive. Hold up, the biggest GPU manufacturer makes GPUs in America, that's Nvidia, and even AMD seems to be making GPUs in America. So will the prices be affected? I was recommended to watch a Gamers Nexus video on tariffs. So, fuck.
3 hours later.
Yes, it will affect prices. Okay, so that was the short answer. First, in this video he doesn't talk specifically about GPUs, but like every other tech product that any company makes in America, basically they will need to import things from China. Maybe smaller, cheaper, easier to produce electronics, maybe capacitor or just fans or screws and small stuff like that. All of those things will now become more expensive, and even though they are an American company, they don't necessarily make all the GPUs inside of America. If you want more info on tariffs, watch the video. But the MSRP of prices is set, so because of the tariffs, will they remain like that, or will they become cheaper or more expensive? No one has a clue on that, and the problem with that isn't because people don't know how tariffs work. The problem is that they are just changing constantly. No one has a clue. One thing for sure, they are going up. At least when it comes to China. And since there are some GPUs that are at MSRP, or at least close to it, they are worth taking a look at. We will talk about those and everything else. And then we will make a tier list. Which GPUs are worth buying and which are not. We have to be honest with ourselves. Before the 50 series came out, everyone was saying to wait for the 50 series because if they are good, then you can buy the new generation. And if they are not good, then the previous generation will become cheaper. We all know how that went. They stopped producing the old generation and never properly supplied the new generation of GPUs to this day. So in this video, we might make some prediction, but the fact is that right now, it's a good time to buy GPUs depending on what buyer you are. Now, let's get to the tier list. So here you will notice that we have the last generation of GPUs as well from Nvidia. Right now we are not going to talk about the used market because it depends on where you are and you might need to go and get it yourself. So we are just going to talk about prices new, and because of that, the last generation of GPUs in the list are F tier. We are going to talk about the used market, but for now they are F tier. They are probably worth taking a look at if you know what you are looking for, and some people have found a way to get new GPUs for a lot under MSRP new. But more on that later in the video. Finally, let's talk about the current state of the 50 series. There are some good stuff and there are also some stuff that we will get into, but for now the 5060. You can find it for exactly at MSRP price, $300, and that's good. I mean, the MSRP is good, nothing else about it comes close to it. But in a world where nothing is at MSRP, we will get all the wins that we can. Basically with it you get 8GB of VRAM, which is in my opinion the biggest mistake with this GPU, but it is at MSRP, it is $300, and with it you get all the new 50 series features like DLSS 4, multi-frame generation and all the good stuff, because it's priced competitively and depending if you like the features, it's going to be either B tier or C tier. If you like the features, it's B tier, and if you don't like the features, it goes to C tier. But it's still a really good budget 1080p computer. For now we are going to give it the B spot. Moving on to the RTX 5060 Ti. Now I am not even going to humor the 8GB version, just don't buy it. And when you go to the 16GB version, the MSRP isn't all that bad. The price isn't good enough for the performance, but you have 16GB of VRAM if you wanted that. And again, it has all the Nvidia features. This again wouldn't be bad if it was at MSRP, but the cheapest I found it new was around $40 over MSRP. With that said, if you wanted a good and stable GPU from Nvidia, then this GPU might be the one for you. I mean, if you don't want a lot of performance and if you want that 16GB of VRAM, but you don't have quite enough money, then this is a good deal. But again, that is if you only want Nvidia, because AMD is not bad. It's actually pretty good in terms of performance. More on AMD later. But there are people who only want Nvidia GPUs, and for those people, it is C tier. But remember, stay away from the 8GB version. And finally, the
RTX 5070 4090 performance.
Sorry, couldn't resist making the joke. So even though it has gotten a lot of hate, it is not as bad as people say it is. People mostly hate the RTX 5070 because of the lies, and to be honest, it doesn't have enough RAM, but it has 12GB, which is quite a step up from 8GB, and it is around $50 more than MSRP, even though the MSRP was expensive enough. But with everything said, I will still put this at B tier, and the only reason for that is because it has enough RAM for today's games, it is close enough to MSRP, and it performs good enough to give you a new generational experience compared to other GPUs from Nvidia. So yeah, B tier. And now we move on to the 5070 Ti, which was supposed to be the best GPU on the market, but in my opinion is one of the worst GPUs. And the reason for that is because the RTX 5070 Ti has 16GB of RAM, so it was supposed to be priced as a mid-range because it's a 5070 and it has 16GB. So it had all the ingredients of being great, but Nvidia got greedy and it said that the MSRP price is $750. And the worst part is that you can't even find it at that price. So you will need to spend another $80 at minimum. And that's if you are lucky. Usually they are going for a lot more. So just because of the price, I can't place this higher than C tier. Now we are at the RTX 5080, but we are going to talk about the RTX 5090 as well, because they both are good GPUs to a degree, but both of them are terribly priced. The main problem with these GPUs is that they are hard to recommend, even at MSRP now, considering that they are a lot more expensive than MSRP, the decision becomes a lot simpler. The RTX 5080 is not worth buying in any case. It still has only 16GB of VRAM, which at this price is unacceptable, and the RTX 5090 is overpriced, but it has one thing going for it. It is the best GPU in the market right now. So if you wanted those bragging rights, you can buy the RTX 5090, but don't think that the RTX 5080 and the RTX 5090 are close in terms of performance. They are worlds apart. The RTX 5090 has like double everything the RTX 5080 has. So the RTX 5080 is F tier and the RTX 5090 is like C tier just because it has those bragging rights. Nothing else. And with that said, we are done with the 50 series, so let's move on to AMD with the RX 9070 and the RX 9070 XT. Now I will just say it, since their MSRPs are only $50 apart, the non-XT version is just not worth it in comparison, but both of them are not available at MSRP. The standard 9070 is just not worth it and the XT version is $100 overpriced, but because it is 16GB and it is a modern GPU, and even with their price it is still under the MSRP of the RTX 5070 Ti, I will rank the XT version at B tier, but the non-XT version it just doesn't have enough performance, so it will be F tier for me. And then we move on to the last GPU for AMD, the RX 9060 XT, which they said will be priced at $300, but that is for the 8GB version, so I don't think anyone is going to get that, since for that exact price you can get the RTX 5060 and I don't think they will have a big performance gap, but there is a 16GB version for $50 more, so I don't know how that is going to end up, but for me I will leave the 8GB version at F tier just because no one should buy it, and the 16GB version, well, I don't know, I don't have it. But if you can buy it at MSRP and if it performs somewhat close to the RTX 5060 Ti, then it should be a killer deal for budget gaming. So I will leave this GPU at A tier just because there is hope, and hopefully AMD doesn't disappoint. Basically, when the reviews are out, it will be either the best deal or the worst. And now Intel comes with two GPUs, so the Arc B580, the good things about it. First, you can find it at MSRP, maybe not easily, but you can. It has 12GB of RAM, so that's enough for a low-end GPU, and the main problem with it are the quirks that Intel is dealing with. They have solved most of them, but there are still some problems with ARC GPUs. So if you can deal with those problems, then this GPU easily gets the A spot, just because it's a great deal for budget gaming. But if you can't deal with them, then just don't buy it. And the B570, just don't buy it. It has 10GB of RAM and it's slower. So the 570, it's at F tier, and the 580, I will rank it at A tier. When it comes to the used market, things even there are rough. Some people have found ways to actually get good deals, but if you buy a GPU used from someone else, you should know what you are doing. And remember two things. First, there are a lot of scammers out there. And second, if a deal is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. By the way, do you agree with my rankings? If not, what would you change? And consider liking the video and subscribing. Bye bye, see you in the next one.